The palace didn't leak this by accident. They wanted the world to watch Prince Harry's empire burn in real time. That is the terrifying whisper exploding through royal corridors tonight after reports surfaced that Prince William allegedly launched what insiders are calling a financial war against the Sussex machine itself. And suddenly, the smiling photo ops, the polished speeches, the carefully scripted appearances around the Invictus Games are no longer being viewed as charity work. They are being viewed as camouflage. Because according to explosive claims now shaking royal watchers across both London and California, William has allegedly stopped seeing the Invictus Games as Harry's noble legacy and started seeing it as a dangerous liability attached to the crown. The timing feels almost surgical. Early morning, May 6, 2026. Palace insiders whisper that while King Charles projected calm diplomacy overseas, William was allegedly preparing something far colder behind closed doors. Not an emotional family confrontation, not another sad brother versus brother headline. No, this looked calculated, ruthless, institutional. The kind of move that says the monarchy has stopped treating Harry like family and started treating him like a threat vector. And according to the transcript, by 9:00 a.m., the gloves were supposedly off. The most chilling part? The accusation wasn't even framed as personal revenge. It was framed as protection of the monarchy itself. That changes everything. Because once the palace begins using words like fiscal integrity, strategic liability, and global reputation, this stops sounding like tabloid gossip and starts sounding like a constitutional containment operation. William allegedly believed the public could no longer separate Invictus from the Windsor name, meaning every suspicious budget number, every luxury accusation, every whisper about private jets or elite entourages no longer damages just Harry and Meghan. It stains the crown itself, and that is where panic allegedly began. Then came the alleged emergency summons. Suddenly, sources claimed William demanded a full independent audit under supervision connected to the Duchy of Cornwall, not random accountants, not symbolic reviewers, heavyweight financial overseers tied directly to the future king's power structure. The message reportedly delivered to Harry was icy enough to freeze an entire bloodline. You are using the family's legacy as a screen for unaccounted spending. This must end. And people online immediately noticed something terrifying about that sentence. It didn't sound emotional. It sounded final. Now the internet is spiraling because the transcript paints a picture far uglier than anyone expected. Suddenly there are claims of inflated budgets, massive discrepancies, multi-million-dollar gaps, and the numbers themselves feel designed to trigger outrage. According to the so-called discrepancy report, auditors allegedly identified $24.1 million in questionable spending connected to projected Vancouver Invictus costs. $24 million, not thousands, not accounting confusion. $24 million sitting like a ticking bomb in the middle of a veterans charity narrative. Meanwhile, the Sussex camp allegedly descended into silence. And in royal scandals, silence is never just silence. Silence becomes evidence. Silence becomes suspicion. According to the transcript, Harry allegedly struggled to explain the financial discrepancies during direct confrontations. Meghan, meanwhile, was portrayed by insiders as the true controller behind strategic financial decisions. That detail alone has sent conspiracy channels into absolute overdrive because it feeds the oldest royal narrative imaginable: the prince trapped inside someone else's machine. And then comes the line that changes the emotional temperature of the entire story: the silence from Montecito is the loudest sound in the world. That sentence doesn't just describe quiet, it describes collapse. Because by that point, according to the transcript, William allegedly wasn't merely auditing finances anymore. He was dismantling legitimacy itself. Sponsors were allegedly being pressured. Royal patronage allegedly threatened. Institutional walls allegedly closing in from every direction. Now people are asking the question nobody inside the monarchy once spoken out loud. Was this always the end game? Did William wait patiently for years while Harry and Meghan built a global celebrity identity, only to allegedly strike once financial vulnerabilities appeared? Because the language throughout this transcript feels less like family disappointment and more like strategic extermination. Words like constitutional purge, systematic restructuring, and professional exile appear repeatedly. That is not a reconciliation language, that is succession language. And maybe the most haunting detail of all is the psychological one. The transcript repeatedly frames Harry as standing between two worlds with nowhere left to go. Protect Meghan or protect the Windsor legacy. Defend the lifestyle or save Invictus, remain loyal to California, or crawl back toward institutional discipline. Every path looks humiliating. Every choice feels fatal. The real nightmare for the Sussex camp allegedly began when Prince William stopped acting like an angry brother and started acting like a future king, cleaning contamination out of the system. Because according to explosive palace whispers, everything that happened on May 6, 2026 was only the opening strike. The real operation allegedly started later in the afternoon when William moved beyond audits and directly targeted the oxygen supply, keeping Harry's influence alive. Money, sponsors, legitimacy, and royal association itself. Suddenly, insiders described Buckingham Palace as operating like a war room. Legal advisors, financial experts, military-connected voices, institutional strategists. And right in the center of it all stood William, no longer portrayed as the quiet heir waiting patiently in the shadows, but as a cold executor of royal survival. The terrifying message allegedly being sent behind closed doors was simple: the Sussex era had become too dangerous to tolerate any longer. Then came the ultimatum, and this is where the story allegedly crossed into psychological warfare. According to the transcript, William reportedly issued a direct demand to the Invictus Games board itself, ordering the public release of every itemized sponsorship receipt and donor expenditure within 24 hours. 24 hours, not weeks, not after internal review. Immediately. That detail matters because it creates panic. It signals urgency. It tells the world the palace allegedly believed the situation was so explosive that delay itself could become catastrophic. And then came the threat attached to it. If transparency was refused, the royal family would allegedly sever all association and patronage connected to Invictus entirely. That would be devastating, because once the crown removes its symbolic protection, the organization allegedly stops looking royal and starts looking exposed. But what happened next may have terrified Montecito even more, because William allegedly didn't stop at internal pressure. He supposedly went straight toward the corporate giants funding the games. Private conversations, direct warnings, quiet but brutal influence, Jaguar Land Rover, Boeing, massive sponsors suddenly hearing concerns from the future king himself regarding financial transparency, and insiders claim panic spread immediately through the sponsorship world. Think about how chilling that really is. William allegedly didn't need to publicly accuse anyone. He only needed to create doubt. In the corporate world, doubt is poison. Sponsors do not wait around while charity scandals grow teeth. They run fast, especially when wounded veterans are emotionally attached to the story, because the moment donors fear their money might fund celebrity excess instead of rehabilitation, reputational collapse becomes contagious. And then Princess Anne allegedly stepped in like a final moral hammer. Suddenly, the investigation was no longer only about accounting spreadsheets. It became about military honor, about soldiers, about sacrifice, about whether veterans themselves were receiving only crumbs while luxury expenses swallowed the spotlight. That transition changed everything because it emotionally trapped Harry in the worst possible position imaginable. He could fight William, he could attack palace politics, but could he publicly fight the argument that wounded veterans deserved clearer financial accountability? That is where the narrative allegedly became lethal. Meanwhile, the descriptions coming from inside Montecito grew darker and darker. Sources claimed Harry appeared frozen, passive, disconnected from the actual financial details surrounding the organization, carrying his own name and image. And then came perhaps the most explosive whisper of all. Meghan allegedly maintained operational control over major financial strategy and cash flow decisions. Instantly, the internet exploded into competing theories. Was Harry merely the face while Meghan allegedly controlled the structure behind the scenes? Was he uninformed? Or was he simply unable to defend the numbers because the truth itself had become too dangerous to explain publicly? That uncertainty became fuel for endless speculation, because silence inside royal scandals always becomes louder than actual statements. And the silence reportedly became unbearable. No immediate rebuttal, no aggressive denial campaign, no confident press conference. Just Montecito growing quieter while London allegedly grew sharper. That contrast alone created a devastating image in the public imagination. William moving with precision while Harry allegedly retreated into confusion. Suddenly, commentators weren't asking whether the brothers hated each other anymore. They were asking whether Harry had completely lost control control of the empire he tried to build outside the palace walls. Then the story took an even darker turn because the transcript began describing potential legal consequences. And once American regulatory agencies entered the conversation, the atmosphere changed instantly from gossip to existential danger. According to the report, if any misuse of charitable funds were ever proven, the Sussexes could allegedly face scrutiny from entities like the ears and the California Attorney General's office. That possibility alone terrified observers because royal drama may entertain audiences, but legal investigations destroy brands permanently, especially in America, where charitable profiteering connected to veterans is considered one of the most radioactive accusations imaginable. And perhaps the most brutal part of the entire narrative was how Meghan herself was portrayed throughout the allegations. The transcript paints her not as a victim, not even as merely ambitious, but as someone allegedly blinded by image obsession, a woman who supposedly treated a global veterans organization like a luxury lifestyle brand. According to the narrative, appearances allegedly became more important than accountability. Glamour allegedly replaced transparency. Hollywood-style presentation allegedly swallowed the actual mission. Whether true or not, the imagery itself is devastating because it creates an unforgettable emotional contrast: wounded soldiers on one side, designer-level excess on the other. And this is where William allegedly struck hardest psychologically. He reportedly forced Harry into an impossible loyalty test. Choose Meghan or save Invictus. Choose personal loyalty or institutional survival. Because according to the transcript, the only possible path toward restoring credibility would allegedly require Meghan's complete removal from executive financial authority connected to the organization. Imagine the humiliation hidden inside that scenario. Harry would effectively need to admit the palace was right all along, admit William's intervention was justified, admit the structure surrounding his wife had become toxic to the charity's future. That is not merely a professional defeat, that is emotional annihilation. But William allegedly wasn't finished yet, because as night fell over London, palace insiders claimed the future king moved towards something even colder: permanent isolation, financial restructuring, inheritance restrictions, administrative barriers, a strategic effort to allegedly transform Harry from globally significant prince into ordinary California celebrity. The symbolism behind that move is brutal. The monarchy allegedly decided it could survive without Harry and wanted the world to know it. Then came another shocking detail buried deep inside the transcript: the transfer of honorary titles and patronages toward the next generation, especially James Alexander, the Earl of Wessex. That detail feels almost cinematic because it signals replacement, erasure, succession moving forward without the Sussexes. While Harry allegedly spiraled into financial scandal narratives, James Alexander was suddenly being positioned as calm, dependable, scandal-free royal stability. The contrast could not be more painful. One prince allegedly descending into controversy while another quietly inherits institutional trust. And maybe that is the true emotional core of this entire story. Not money, not audits, not donor discrepancies. Replacement, because the palace allegedly stopped trying to rehabilitate Harry and instead began building a future designed to function without him entirely. That realization changes the emotional meaning of every silence coming from Montecito tonight. Because maybe Harry now understands something horrifying: this is no longer a temporary feud. This may be the permanent rewriting of royal history itself. As midnight approached on May 6, 2026, the transcript describes London sitting in eerie calm while California remained silent, and that silence allegedly felt like surrender. William had supposedly completed what insiders described as a constitutional purge, stripping away the Sussex narrative piece by piece until only questions remained. Questions about money, questions about loyalty, questions about celebrity, power, veterans, legitimacy, and survival. But the most dangerous question of all still hangs over everything tonight. If the monarchy was willing to go this far against one of its own blood princes, what else has been hidden behind palace walls all these years?